kind of fun way to do design for your book is to do kind of like a mosaic style. There are actually a lot of professional artists that do layered papers, so this is kind of a cool technique. It takes some patience and some searching, but it looks really cool when it's done. So what you can do is I just took an old magazine and I took a few pages out that had colors that I thought would look really good together for my characters, kind of the scheme that I want to have overall. The trick to this is you will need to cut out enough to kind of keep it consistent for each time that a specific character is shown in your story, kind of have some of those same tones. So instead of, if I only had a certain amount of this blue, what I could do is kind of mix these together if I wanted to have some different textures. And I have kind of a limited amount of each color. But if I wanted to use it multiple times throughout my story, I could kind of combine these, so it could have been more of a light with a dark. But you're gonna need to do a lot of prep for this ahead of time if you wanna do something like this, so that you know that you have enough of a specific color or kind of pattern. So what I did was, there are a couple of different things, was you still wanna provide some texture. And so this is a very flat color. So what I did was I just cut it into a lot of different little shapes, and you can do some bigger if you have like more of a zoomed in spot. You can do some really little. So just prep by cutting a lot of the same piece into a ton of smaller kind of pieces here. So even this might be a little too big unless it's like really zoomed in on our character. So I did that, and I used that color for her jeans. Okay, so if I zoom in a little bit, you can see that there's some texture there. There's some, the overlapping of paper gives it a bit of texture. What I will need to make sure I do is go back over and actually identify where like those legs are. So you may end up needing to actually go back over, and you can outline or trace, whatever, unless you're able to make it like super obvious, okay, where the different breaks are in the characters. So another way that you could do this is just by cutting long strips. So here I know that this is the only scene that I'm going to have this light pole. So I have a couple of pieces of thicker gray here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and make sure that it's thick enough to cover up my lines. Move to that spot, and then cut down here. Okay, move those out of the way, and take my glue. And I like using the purple one or like the colored glue so that you know where you're putting it and where it's still tacky. But that is totally optional. And then just plop it on. Okay, try to cover up those lines that you have, and that'll give it a bit of texture there. But then there are some things where it's like really little details. So you'll just take something, and I know that I need to cut a couple of circles out for my light. Okay, so I have my green light here. Oops, that needs to be more of a circle. Or if that's the kind of style that you want to have, it doesn't need to be exact. It can be a little choppy. It just depends on what the consistent style of your piece is going to be. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same with a piece of red paper. Okay, and then yellow. Okay, and then I might want to put this on first, okay, just so that I'm not trying to cut a million little pieces. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to, and again, this stuff dries clear, so it doesn't matter if you get it a little messy. Put that on there, and then put another strip of glue down. And if you have a hard time picking up the pieces of paper, if you just dab your finger on the glue and then pick up the paper, it'll stick to your finger. Oops. Okay. And you can place it. Okay, and then smush it over, get it where you want it. Okay, so I've got my stoplight. Let me turn off this light so it's not quite so bright on it. You can see a little bit better now. Okay. And then the same is going to need to be done for like your character. If you've got big blocks, you can do that. If you have an X-Acto knife, you can actually like trace out and cut. I don't have any of those to kind of check out to you guys, so I am not using that. But if you just have like strips, you can also use that. Okay. So I've got the dark hair, her bun, and I can just do a couple pieces like that if you want to have some more texture. Again, you could do that X-Acto knife if you have one, just to be a little more precise. And if you're layering any pieces on top of each other, make sure you put more glue down, just to make sure that it fully sticks. Okay. Yeah, so we've got our bun, and then we can go through and do the same. Now, what if you really want to use a specific color and you can't find it in any of your magazines? Well, then you can take another piece of paper and a marker of that color. Okay. And then cut that up. Okay, so it's a little bit of a cheat, but not really, because you get to kind of design your color palette. And if you can't find anything that you really want to use, create it. Okay? You get to do whatever you want with your kid's book. And you'll see that I tend to do more of like triangle pieces. I feel like it gives kind of some good texture, have some angles on there. So you just snip it up. And a lot of the times the smaller you make it, the easier it is to kind of make sure that you're getting enough pieces to kind of cover everything. But you can also do some larger pieces for like the body of shirts, if you know that it's going to take up that much space. All right. And just layer them on. Kind of get a base piece done first. And I know that that'll work great for the sleeve. Okay. So again, have some patience with it, but have some fun too. Okay. And then once you kind of get this first base down and you start overlapping a little more, like that. I can't actually put that on yet because I need more glue. You'll just add more glue. Okay, so that's one way of making sure that you have the colors that you want to use and not only relying on the ones in magazines or of like paper that you have. And if you have tweezers, that helps sometimes too. Okay. Yeah, so that's how you can use cut up paper to start creating some texture. And if you need colored paper, I do have construction paper. I can get you a few pieces for the checkout day. But yeah, that's kind of the start of my piece. And if you have stuff that's hanging off the edge, once you're done and it's all dry, just snip it off the bottom. And that's the start of this piece. Now you will notice it takes quite a bit of time and patience. So if this is a style that you want, make sure that you are setting aside the time to do this.